This is Inventor modeling in 2022. I'm going to walk you through the basics of how to make a toy train engine. So I will have 5 or 6 different videos. So this first video will walk you through how to make the following parts. So we're going to walk through, so these are your train parts list that we're going to make throughout this project. So the first video is going to go through how to make the HitchMagnet and the HitchPeg and the LinkagePeg. So let's go ahead and walk over and let me share my screen, show you Inventor. So Inventor, remember when it opens, it has this home screen. What I like to do just to kind of not get confused on like what I'm looking at, and like these recent documents are not always accurate to what is actually like saved on your computer. So close out the home screen. So your Inventor screen looks like this. First step is, remember, you want to create a new project. We're starting the train engine, so I'm going to create a new project folder. I'm going to call it Train Engine 2022. If you see here under Workspace, it's going to create a new folder under my workspace. I'll click Next, and then I click Finish. So now that is the default project that is selected. Again, if you're going to other projects throughout this class, if you wanted to go back to look at something, you could always select the project that you want to go back to. I'm going to go ahead and click Done. First step, so we're going to create the HitchMagnet. The HitchMagnet is, if you look at the train engine, this part is connected to the back of the train engine. So if I were to like turn this picture around, there's a little like hook on the back that it's gonna then connect like different, like if you had a train with like multiple cars attached to it, that's what the hitch magnet attaches. So that is this part right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and go into create a standard part file, say create, and now my home screen shows up. So just to kind of show you, we have these are our main XYZ plane, XZ plane, and XY plane. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new sketch. So I'm going to select the bottom plane. So the hitch magnet, going back to the picture. I'll also pull up this picture too, so just so you can see it. So item 3, hitch magnet. So if you look at it closely, it is simply a cylinder with a kind of a hole in the middle to attach to the train engine to like the other cars together. So I'm going to go ahead. So the cylinder, so you have a circle. So I'm going to create 2 circles. I always like to make sure I center kind of parts about the origin, so then it's easier to reference, especially when I'm dimensioning. And now that I have 2 circles, I'm going to go ahead and click on dimension. So the diameter, so when I select the outer circle, it highlights the diameter for me. So the diameter, I'm going to go ahead and click to the side. Diameter of the outer circle is 0.450 inches. The diameter of the inner circle is 0.250 inches. I'll go ahead and right click and say OK because I'm done with that. Again, over here too, we could always rename the sketch if we wanted. I'm going to go ahead and click on this and just call this the cylinder sketches. And then I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. So now I have a 2D sketch. So now I'm going to make it 3D. So in order to make a cylinder, if you look at this, I just need to extrude this area. So I'm going to go ahead and click on extrude. So right here under profiles, it's asking me to select what do I want to like extrude. So I'm going to select the area in between those 2 circles. So that is, and then it's going from the sketch plane and it's telling you directions. So you could obviously flip direction. So I'm just going to keep it on the same direction as that, but it's not 1 inch tall. it is 0.25 inches tall. So I'm going to type in 0.250. I'm going to say OK. Again, so now I'm going to go ahead and add color. So if I highlight, I'm going to go up to the color wheel up at the top of the screen. So let's say the HitchMagnet probably is a good color for this. So I'm going to select the black. I'm going to add it to my library. So if I highlight the part and select black, now it's black. I can also go up here to default material. So let's say we want plastic. So we have like a bunch of different plastic metals. So I wanted to make sure it's also plastic. Go ahead and say OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up to File and say Save As. So we always want to save our parts as the component that it is, so we just know when we're going back to like assemble or train, we know like what is what and where to find it. Again, this should be saved in, hold on. Let me find the folder under Documents, Inventor. So this is the HitchMagnet. There's our HitchMagnet. All right, so that is the HitchMagnet. Now the next one is the HitchPeg. So let's go ahead and go to Inventor. You notice down here, so if I say File, New File under Standard, that it's going to create another tab. So if I wanted to go back and fix something on the HitchMagnet, I could always go back. So I'm going to go ahead and have a new part, Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to select, this time just to like show it the same direction as the drawing, I'm going to select the XY plane. So what we have here, so if you look at here, so we have what looks like kind of like a mushroom or a screw, a peg. So you kind of have this like cylinder, like half a circle, half a sphere top, and then you have a cylinder on the bottom. If you also notice this shaded region right here, this is kind of like a 2D shape with like a cylinder region, and then we draw an arc to represent. So the arc is, and then this line and right down the middle is kind of like a center line. So over here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a line first. It's kind of a vertical center line. I'm going to right click on this line and make it a center line. All right, so now, and then I'm going to go ahead and, yes, so that's my center line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw. So I have a radius that goes out like this. So this part right here is my cylinder. And then this part up here, so we'd have the arc. Note that when I draw the arc, I always have, so this point and this point is where the arc is tangent to those points in the part. So I want to make sure I select the two out points it's tangent to. If you notice right here, this is a good example. So I'm going to constrain, so I want this point to connect to this point like that. And then I want to make sure that this should be, wait, Control C, sorry. I think that's right. That's all right. So now we have our, now we have our sketch, right? So now we need to dimension this. This looks like this part right here. So the radius, so down here at the bottom, the diameter of the cylinder is 0.25. So So if we look at our part, we only have half the diameter. So reminder, half of the diameter is radius. So I'm going to dimension from this center line to this line. So this will be the diameter, 0.25. And then this length, or this height, is 0.5. And from the center line to this point, so this diameter is the bigger diameter, which is 0.4. And then the last thing we need to do is, so the length of the center line, just to show you, this is 0.65. And then this is 0.208. And then also I need to make, so this point right here needs to constrain to the top of that point so that it's kind of like tangent flat at the top. So now we have our sketch. So when I click finish sketch, I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to revolve. So you notice it went ahead and already selected it for me, but just to show you, the profile is this profile right here, the 2D sketch. The axis is the center line, and I'm going to go ahead and say OK. All right, so last part. So if you look back at our dimensions, so on this part right down here, so you notice that both of these, let me go ahead and add this to here. Both the HitchPeg and the LinkagePeg have this note or option. So it says optional is the chamfer bottom edge 0.01, 45 degrees. So I'm going to show you what that tool does now. So that tool is used often on like pegs or like screws to kind of like make sure things like fit in the correct when you're kind of assembling different parts together. So if you go up here to your modify tools, you'll notice that there is the word, it says chamfer. So I'm just going to hover over it. So when I hover over things, it'll actually give me the definition. So it kind of applies a bevel to one or more components and makes kind of a vertical, kind of like angled flat edge between one or more component edges. So in this case, we want to, if I kind of zoom in on the bottom, so we have an angle, a distance, and an angle. So I'm going to select the second option. The face is the bottom, and then the edge is between the bottom and the side. The distance, so it's 0.01 and 45 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and say apply. Again, reminder, if you like mess up on something or you want to redo it, always remember that you can right click on the browser and say edit feature. So you can kind of, and then again, if you messed up on the sketch and you want to edit the sketch and make sure you got the dimensions correct, you can go back into the sketch in the browser. This is consumed by this because this is dependent on whatever your sketch was. Again, you can just hit the little plus icons to kind of like expand things. You can also, if you wanted to, you could expand all children, or to make it easier, we can click. So each of these is kind of like dependent on within the part. So here is our HitchPeg. So let's go ahead and go to material list. So I'm going to go to ABS plastic. So I'm going to select this and say OK. And then I'm also going to change the color. So let's see. Let's make the HitchPeg. I'm going to highlight this and select brown. So I'll make it brown. I'm going to hit the home button. So there is our HitchPeg. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And then the last one we're going to do in this video is the LinkagePeg. So File, New, Standard Part. So this is similar to the HitchPeg, but it's slightly different dimensions. So let's go ahead and, so we're going to start new sketch. I'm going to do it in the XYZ plane again. So again, I'm going to make a line. So this is going to be my center line. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Right click, make it a center line. And now I'm going to go do the exact same thing I did here. So I have the diameter down at the bottom, the length of the cylinder. I have the longer radius, and then I also have the arc. So this one, a little tricky. So let's go ahead and dimension the diameter at the bottom. So the dimension of the diameter, I go from the center line, is 0.0625. This dimension is 0.25. That diameter, so let's look at this. So I think the diameter of the longer part, so this is a pretty flat arc region. So I'm going to make so this is the radius of the arc. The diameter of the outer part is going to be 0.1562 times 2. And then also, I needed to mention this, the center line needs to be 0.32. And then lastly, so this dimension is 0.1562. Let's see, it's kind of more, it's tangent to it. So there is the lengths and dimensions for LinkagePeg. So I'm going to go ahead and revolve now. And then lastly, I'm going to chamfer the bottom edge. And now let's make it plastic. And then the color, let's make these. And there is our linkage peg. So these are the first 3 parts in the train engine. And then the next part, so if you'll follow along, then in the next video, I will go over how you make the stack for the train engine.